Assalamu alaikum. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's explainer. I am so glad to be guiding you, our brilliant Semester 2 psychology students here at UNISPA, through our Social Psychology 1 course material. Today, we're diving into a deeply fascinating topic, one that literally shapes almost every single interaction we have in society: social stratification and inequality. We're going to break down the complex, real-world psychosocial dynamics operating just beneath the surface of our social structures. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's start by getting our core definition straight. If we look at John H. Turner's 2008 work, we see two distinct but deeply connected terms. First up, social stratification. Now, this isn't just about individual differences, like someone being taller or faster. It's actually a structured, organized ranking of people into distinct categories based on their access to wealth, power, and prestige. It's a societal hierarchy that often persists across entire generations. Then, the second term is social inequality. Simply put, this is the direct result of that stratification. Because society is artificially layered, the actual resources, life opportunities, and societal rewards are distributed unevenly across those layers. Moving on to the 4 dimensions of stratification, how society is divided. So Turner identifies 4 main dimensions where these hierarchies actually manifest. First is class. That's your income, your assets, and your position in the job market, which pretty much dictate your life chances. Second is status, which is all about social honor and the prestige society grants to certain cultural groups. Third is power, basically the ability to impose your will on others through political or workplace authority. And fourth, race, ethnicity, and gender. This is an ascriptive ranking, meaning biological or cultural identities are used to limit access to resources. When these 4 dimensions crystallize, they form concrete structural barriers that severely limit social mobility for those at the bottom. Now, when you hear the word stratification, you might immediately picture, ancient kings and peasants. On the left side here, we see historical stratification, like feudal or caste systems. These were rigid, explicit, and socially enforced completely out in the open. You were born into a caste and you legally stayed there. But take a look at the right side, modern stratification. The hierarchy hasn't disappeared at all, it's just evolved. Today, inequality is highly complex, way more subtle, and operates through hidden barriers that we don't always notice in our busy, everyday lives. Let's look at stratification in the modern era, real-world practices and impacts. Here, we've mapped out modern phenomena against their actual real-world impacts. Take the digital divide at the top. In our information age, high-income families have access to top-tier technology. The impact? Marginalized groups who lack this access just get locked out of high-skilled job markets. Then, right in the middle, there's the gender wage gap and the glass ceiling. Even with equal qualifications, women still face invisible barriers blocking them from top leadership roles. And finally, down at the bottom, systemic discrimination pushes minorities into marginalized housing zones with poor facilities, while they repeatedly face deep bias within the justice and banking systems. I want to take a quick second to highlight one specific, rapidly growing modern example, and that's the gig economy. We're currently witnessing the rise of a brand new economic strata called the precariat. Think of rideshare drivers or freelance gig workers. They sit at the very bottom of the modern working hierarchy. Why? Well, because unlike traditional professionals or capital owners who enjoy immense stability, the precariat severely lacks job security, health benefits, and long-term financial safety nets. It's a highly vulnerable, really precarious existence. All of this leads us to a really vital, provocative question for us as psychologists. How does this inequality shape our mental state and identity? I really want you to think about that for a second. From a social psychology standpoint, this massive structure of inequality doesn't just stay on the outside. It profoundly impacts how we perceive ourselves. It fuels social attribution. It creates deep-seated stereotypes, and it breeds intense intergroup prejudice. The economic and social hierarchy on the outside actually rewires the mental dynamics inside of us, psychologically reinforcing the very boundaries that divide our society. To wrap up our explainer today, let's just do a quick review of our key takeaways. Number 1, stratification is a structured hierarchy that purposefully distributes resources unequally. Number 2, it definitely hasn't vanished in the 21st century, it's merely transformed into modern gaps like the digital divide, the gig economy, and gender disparities. And number 3, grasping these sociological structures is absolutely critical for analyzing how a person's social position directly shapes their human behavior, their identity, and their mental dynamics. So keep these points fresh in your minds because it's time to actually apply them. We're moving directly into our interactive, case-based group workshop where you'll be mapping out these inequalities yourselves. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you all in the workshop.